Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going over my Guardian DK build. So the whole point behind this build is to have a very resilient tank, basically right at 40,000 resistance, with being able to provide tankiness and survivability to the entire group. How we're going to be doing this is we're going to be producing AoE resistance buffs, and basically anybody that's going to be in our general vicinity is going to be receiving up to almost 7,500 resistance, which is a little over an 11% damage mitigation. Plus we're going to be running guard on our main healer in the group. With the changes to no longer getting cross healing from people that aren't in your group, it is harder for healers to keep groups alive. This build is designed to basically allow a healer to go all light armor spec into having the biggest robust heals that they can, and completely relying on you for their survivability and their resistance. Not only will we be given that healer the 7,500 resistance, but we'll also be running guard on them, which is going to reduce their damage taken by another 30%. So our main healer is going to be an all light armor, dropping those 20k breath of lives, but is still going to have a 41% damage mitigation from us. So this is going to drastically increase the entire group survivability, not only because they will be taking less damage, but it's going to allow that light armor healer to be able to do nothing but provide the biggest heals possible without constantly dying in their light armor. For our main bar, our first ability is going to be Choking Talons. This is going to be our immobilize, but we're going to be affecting our enemy players with minor maim, reducing their damage done by 5%. Again, group utility, helping the group survive. Volatile armor. This is going to be our main resistance buff, but just gives us a little bit of dots out there on the enemy. Mystic Guard, which will be double barred. This is what's going to give us our main protection of our healer. It's going to be a 30% damage reduction for them, transferring it to us, but it's also giving us both minor vitality. So again, we're getting more heals, easier for us to stay alive. Noxious Breath. Throwing this out as in basically using it as an AoE poison attack, so we can kind of use the combustion passive to help keep our block up as much as possible for returning stamina. It's also going to apply Major Breach to debuff the enemies. Running Embers, this is just an additional heal for us, and to keep a burning status effect on enemies. Shifting Standard is going to be our alt. We're actually double barring this, so no matter what bar we're on, we can shift it. It's a great way to provide a synergy for the group to help immobilize enemies, give our group back resources, but it's going to keep the enemy with a 20% debuff on their healing received and health recovery, making it easier for our DPSs to kill them. Now on our back bar, again, we are keeping Shifting Standards slotted, so no matter what we're in the middle of doing, we can realign the standard to whatever position we need it to be. Green Dragon Blood for our heal and help keep up our Major Fortitude and Major Endurance for our recovery buffs. Running Cauterize to help keep our heal up. Defensive stance, we're running this to go ahead and take advantage of being able to block 10% more damage, but also reducing our block cost by 10%, so we can perma block as much as possible. Heroic Slash, this is on here to apply the minor maim, but mainly the sole focus is so we can keep up our minor heroism to make sure that we're producing as many standards as possible. So we're gonna keep that up as close to as 100% of the time as we can. So we're gonna be using the poison status effect to help restore our stamina back to us with this combustion passive. Because this isn't actually regen, we can get the stamina back as we're holding block. Now, I've been playing this build as a Dark Elf. You really want to build it as a Nord. The Nord's going to give you the extra resistance. It's going to give you the extra all regen. It's a much better option. With the amount of builds that I cycle through and do, I've just reached the point with 18 characters. I'm tired of deleting characters and re-leveling. So I just played it as a Dark Elf, but you do want to run it as a Nord. It will be a much better fit. I'm running the Lady for my Mundus, but that's because I'm a Dark Elf. If you're running this as a Nord, and you should be, you're gonna already have the extra, 3,200 resistance from the Nord passives. So I would switch this out and pick up the extra 2,000 some Magicka from that particular Mundus. For our food, we're gonna be running Bewitched Sugar Skulls. It's gonna give us the most resources. The extra health recovery is great for a tank build. Alright, for our gear, we're starting out with Leeching Plate on our sword and board. We're going to get the extra healing taking, but the Poison Cloud that we're going to be creating is going to give us a little small extra heal, help reduce the strain of keeping us alive for our healers. But we're going to be using this to try to generate poison procs to have combustion start returning stamina resources to us while we're blocking. My RNG has been horrible on this. If you can get a Frost Staff of Leeching to drop for you, run that on your back bar. Do it in Decisive. Our monster set is going to be Lord Warden. This is part of how we're going to be giving the group the 7,500 resistance. The other way we're going to achieve that is through the Grave Guardian set. So basically, anytime we're holding block, we're going to create another AoE on the ground that moves with us. Anybody inside that AoE for our group members is going to pick up the additional 4,000 resistance. Combining that with Lord Warden, unfortunately, it's a huge AoE for Lord Warden, but it doesn't move. It is stationary, but it will be repositioning just every 10 seconds with the amount of damage we're going to be taking and the ticks on us, especially since this will trigger even if it's the healer that's getting hit, but we're absorbing that damage through guard. So even if somebody's not actually targeting us, we can still get this to proc by that damage coming in from guard. I run one piece in light so I can pick up the additional 2% max resources from the Undaunted passives, and so I can pick up the extra passes from the light armor set on the first 3. Now, you're going to have to balance how many impenetrables versus sturdies that you need to be able to keep your block up at a comfortable pace without resourcing yourself. Now, for jewelry, you'll see that I have a couple health recoveries. I have that on there because there were times that I was just kind of running the solo testing stuff. Get rid of those enchants, run the reduction of block cost enchants on all 3 pieces, and go ahead and run Swift as your traits for all 3 jewelry pieces. The reason why I'm suggesting Swift is because we are holding block a lot, and that's going to reduce our overall movement. We can use the Swift traits to kind of combat that, help us to stay next to our healer as we're moving through the chaos of large fights. So it's just much more beneficial. For our champion points, we're starting out with 72 into Warlord. Being in the front line of keep fights, group fights, you're going to be getting CC'd a lot. You're going to need to be able to break your stuns as soon as possible for as cheap as possible. We end up with 2 extra points. We just threw it into bashing focus. 56 points into healthy for our recovery. 59 into befoul for getting that extra bit of reduction of healing received and health recovery for the enemies while we're in our standard. 81 into Shadow Ward. Obviously we want our block cost to be as cheap as possible. 43 into Bless to help our healing. 51 into Elfborn, again to help spike our crit heals. 56 into Elemental Expert. 48 into Spell Erosion. 72 into Thaumaturge. This is going to help with our Leeching Plate, our Standard. Basically all the damage we're doing is really damage over time, but it will also help the healing we receive from Leeching Plate because it's based on the damage we do. 51 into Ironclad, 61 into Resistant, 16 into Thick Skin, 43 for Hardy and Elemental Defender. 56 into Quick Recovery, increasing all those heals we're going to be getting. Alright, as always guys, I want to take the time to thank everyone who watches these videos. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I'll answer them as soon as I can.